In this video, I'll talk about 3 things you might not know about the long tail cast-on. The long tail cast-on is a very common cast-on method in knitting. But there are 3 things that you maybe don't know about the long tail cast-on. The long tail cast-on is actually a cast-on and 1 row of knitting. I'm set up here to work a long tail cast on with the tail coming over my thumb and the working yarn going over my finger. What we are doing when we are casting on with the long tail cast on is we are creating an E or a backwards loop cast on. If I just removed my thumb and pulled the loop up, I'd have a half hitch or an E cast on stitch right there. But we don't put that loop on the needle. We put the needle into that loop, but then we immediately make a knit stitch out of that cast on stitch right there. So we are actually casting on and working 1 row of knitted stitches when we do a traditional long tail cast on. The second thing then that's related to the first that you might not know is that because the cast on edge then never gets sized by the needle, we use the needle to go into that cast on edge and then pull up a knit stitch, but that cast on edge there is never sized by the needle. Therefore, the tightness or looseness of this long tail cast on is not controlled by needle size. Instead, it's controlled by how close together or how far apart these stitches are sitting on the needle. If you want to make your cast on looser, you will space them farther apart. Like so. If you want to make it tighter, you will space them closer together. Like so. The third thing you might not know about the long tail cast on is that you can work this in pattern. You can work knit stitches and purl stitches as you are casting on using the long tail cast on. And this is great because we are actually creating that first row of knitting. So if we can create that first row of knitting in pattern, then our cast on edge will look even better. To do that, the traditional way of working the long tail cast on is producing a knit stitch. Like so. To produce a purl stitch, you pivot your index finger to get that half hitch loop. You insert your needle through that, you wrap the yarn around with the thumb, and then pull a loop up and tighten. Like so. It's a little awkward until you get the hang of it, but that is a purl stitch. And you can see there, I have purl stitches. And then you simply resume knitting. So if you had a 1x1 rib, you would work a knit long tail cast on, and then a purl cast on, and then a knit, and then a purl. Like so. Here's a bonus thing that you might not know about the long tail cast on. There is a right and a wrong side, or there are 2 different sides to the long tail cast on. The smooth side is typically thought of as the right side. It produces this little chained area. The wrong side, or the bumpy side, which is often thought of as the wrong side, produces a more purl bumpy look. If you want the smooth side to present to the right side of your work, your first working row after casting on needs to be a wrong side row. If you want the bumpy side to present to the right side of the work, the first row after you cast on needs to be a right side row. So those are 3 plus 1 extra things that you might not necessarily know about the long-tail cast-on. Were any of these new to you? Let me know in the comments below. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.